See, the moment I zoom in, look at it. I can see myself, right? Let's see. Bum, bum. Okay. Done, done. Look at that. I can see. It's like I'm seeing after image of myself. Look at that. I really enjoy when games innovate, right? I know you've played a lot of games, or I've played my fair share of these games where they're just repetitive, right? Like either they're cash grabs or like some beginner's project which they just decided to upload as a full game, but it's always just the same thing, right? I barely see any real like uniqueness, any cool unique features in games anymore, and that does kind of suck. And I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I, started to learn game development when I was younger, right? Because, like I did want to make games that were unique, that had something that other games didn't, and I have come up with something really interesting. A bit of this was seen before in a previous video, so I'll give you the context for that in case you haven't seen that, but I've effectively expanded on that video. Again, I'll give you context if you haven't seen that video, but let me just show you something, right? I have this little script here, and if I play the game, you will see my Roblox character, or like the default character, right? This isn't my character, but it's the default one, and you probably notice that something is like a little weird, like I don't know, he just looks kind of off-putting, a little off place, right? And that's because he is. This character does not actually exist. He isn't real. If I go to the actual server, there's no one here. But if I go back to my player, I'm here, and yet I'm not here. This was a main focus in one of my most viewed videos, actually. It's called something like I made a illusion into a playable character, where the idea was that I took a Roblox character, well, exactly like this one, and I effectively made a script that transforms this character into a drawing, right? So if I play the game right now, like I said, this is just a drawing. And you can see this, let's say if I, do this, see how it's always just on top of everything, right? Like typically a character would get, hidden by a part in front of it, but this guy doesn't. And what this is user interface. So user interface like buttons and everything. It's this thing called a viewport frame. If I were to, for example, make this invisible, let me just find it. There we go. If I make this invisible, that's it. I could still move around. I could still rotate the camera, but we're not going to see anything. But if I make this visible again, now we see the character again. And the whole idea with my previous video was that this allows you to manipulate how quick the character gets updated. So for example, right now this effectively runs at every single frame. So this is as smooth as you can be. But if I say, for example, like, let's say I want this guy to run at 10 frames. So that would be 0.1, right? 0.1 seconds. Now, if I play the game, we would look like this, right? And this is a pretty cool effect. Again, I have a whole video on where I go more in depth about how I made this, how exactly this works, but you kind of get the idea, hopefully, right? We just have an invisible model, and this model then gets drawn on to kind of look as if it's real, but it isn't, hence the whole optical illusion part. And yeah, look, see, like he does little animations, and it's like pretty. Can I actually do? Oh, I can't do it. Why are they? What do you mean disable in this experience? How do you disable emotes in my own game, bro? Come on. And yeah, this is where my previous video ended. However, I looked into it more, and this frame rate thing is really cool. And I looked this up online. I really didn't find many people making cool stuff with this, right? I really did. Like, I saw like a Twitter post that did kind of well, and it was like, whoa, look at this amazing video, thank you. But nothing really too creative. Like, they just showed what I did, and that was effectively it. And so my goal here is to expand on this effect, because like I said, just in case you're still confused, it's simply just a model that is invisible in the real world, but then gets drawn on. Like, it just basically, like, to explain that it copies every part of my character, it makes it visible, but only inside of the drawing, and then it updates that drawing however many times we want, right? So like I said, here it updates the drawing every 0.1 seconds. I can also tweak the camera a little bit. So as you can see right now, it's kind of like trailing behind. Like, it's making this weird effect where the character isn't always in the center of the screen, like it's kind of lagging along, and that's a really cool effect. You could have that. But there's also another way of doing this. You can make a brand new camera for this viewport frame, right? So I could say new cam would be instance dots new. We can make a brand new camera, and then I could just set the new camera's position equal to our current camera's position. So this is the camera that my player uses. Then I could set the viewport frame's current camera equal to this new camera, and then I'll put this new camera inside of the viewport frame. And I know you probably didn't understand a word I just said, but now this is going to look like this. We're always going to be in the center of the screen, and we're still moving at a low frame rate, right? So I could go here, I could go here, and this is definitely a pretty cool effect. A little issue here is that if I move the camera around, this happens, like it kind of doesn't fully render. And if, let's say, I reset my character, it looks like this, right? And this isn't really a, desired effect for some, but my point is that there's different ways of doing it, and a lot of people prefer this over what I had previously. So to get onto the new stuff that wasn't covered in my previous video, I was thinking about, again, like I said, the cool things that I could do with this, and I was surprised that I never never thought of this in the original video, but what if you can move things at a various frame rate? So I've seen this done in Spider-Verse, right? I brought up a Spider-Verse a ton in the previous video as well, but in Spider-Verse, I'm sure you've seen the clips where it's like, you know, Miles, he moves in like 30 frames, and then he ends up moving at like 60 frames, and then there's even one shot where one character moves at 30 frames per second, and the other character, who's like more confident or something, moves at 60 frames per second, right? So it's really cool how you could, like, you know, have two characters on the screen, like in one scene, right? They're all moving, but one of them is just moving at a lower frame rate. And so I was just thinking, could this be done in a Roblox game? Or of course it could, right? Because I've achieved this, but how would this effect look? Now, you know, obviously I only have myself here, so I can't really compare myself with, you know, no one, because I'm the only one playing this. But then I thought, what about moving parts, right? So for example, what I could do is I can make a script where let's just have a loop where every 0.1 second, so I could say while task wait 0.1, we could just make a new part. So I could say p is equal to instance.new part. So you probably know what a part is. It's one of these things, right? There we go. Just, you know, in case you didn't know. I can then set this part, we can actually just set its color to be like a random color. So I'll say brick color, random, just to get some, you know, cool little effect. I'm gonna set its position to be above the spawn location. So I'll say position is equal to workspace spawn location dot position. But then we don't want it to be exactly at the spawn location. We want it to be slightly above. So I'll say 0, let's say 12 studs above the spawn location. And this is going to look something like this. Let's see. Well, actually, right, I need to put it inside of the workspace, otherwise we won't see it. So now that I put it into the workspace, it should work. Yeah, there we go, look at that. It makes this little tower. Now, a couple problems. Number one, this is now clogging up the workspace, which isn't good. Number two, they just stay here. And sooner or later, this will, like, see, my game is already natural frame rate drops. My game is already lagging a little bit, and that's not good. So we probably want to delete each part after like 5 seconds or so. Now, these are very simple fixes. So for one, I could make a folder called spawned parts, and then instead of putting it inside of the workspace, I'll put it inside of this folder. And then to delete the part after 5 seconds, I can just say task.wait 5 seconds, then I would destroy the part. The problem here is that the way that this works now is that it's going to wait 0.1 seconds, it's going to make the part, then wait 5 seconds, then destroy it, then move on to the next part. So it's going to look like this, where it's going to make one part, wait 5 seconds, but we don't want that. We want it to keep making parts and then destroy them after 5 seconds. So this is just a little tip to the scripters out there, but the way you can do this is by saying task spawn function, and then you do it like this. I don't know why you have to do this. I'm not even too sure what this does, but this effectively makes this not have to wait, and it moves on immediately to the next event, which is making a new part. So it's going to look something like this, where the parts get spawned and then all the previous parts just get deleted. So if you look around, yeah, see, after 5 seconds, they get deleted. So right now we're at about, I'd like to say maybe like 40 parts or something. So this is a good amount. And I do actually want to randomize the position a little bit, just to make it more chaotic and fun. So I'm just going to get a random number between -10 and +10. And it should now look something like this, where it's like a rain of parts almost. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, I do like this a lot more. And the final thing here is that we would have to make the parts invisible. And in case you're wondering why we have to make them invisible, it's because, or actually, you know what? I can actually show you exactly why we need to do this. Now, before I do that, obviously, we need to find a way to make these parts update at a low frame rate, right? Now, again, I could just add these parts into the viewport just as I do with the character. So for example, I could do this thing where I say, yeah, I could loop through this folder. So I could say, you know, workspace, wait for child, not spawn location, spawned parts get children do, and I could just say vclone.parent would be view. And yeah, so as you can see, this actually does seem like it kind of works, but the problem is that we can still see the original parts, right? So we see the drawings, but we see the actual part models alongside that, and we do not want that. Which is why, again, we'll have to set the transparency to 1, which makes them invisible, but then, as we're cloning them, we have to set the transparency to be 0 so that we can actually see them, right? So I'll say local new part is equal to the clone, we'll say new part.transparency, we're gonna say new part.transparency is 0, meaning fully visible, and then finally new part.parent is equal to the viewport. And if I do it like this, there was like a little lag spike when I started playing, but yeah, there we go, look at that. So now both my characters at a low frame rate and these parts are at a low frame rate. But here's the big question, right? How do I differentiate them? What if I want my character, for example, to move at 60 frames? You know, like what do I do? Or maybe I want my players to just smoothly move around, or maybe vice versa. Maybe I want only these parts to, you know, be smooth, but then I want my character to still be at a low frame rate. Or maybe I want the parts to be at 10 frame rate and I want my character to be at a 5 frame rate. Like, how do we do something like this? Because, like, you know, I suppose I could just change this, but then that changes both of them, right? Like, like if I change this number, it changes both the character character and the part, and obviously I don't want that. My initial idea here was to make 2 different viewport frames, which initially I thought would work. I thought that kind of made sense. So I could say like, you know, view 1, or actually no, I guess I could keep this viewport frame, and I can make another viewport frame, which I'll call view, I don't know, clone. And then I was just thinking, okay, well, what if I clone this local script, right? So I'll have another local script, and instead of just doing the character, I only do this for the parts, right? And then I could say, and then yeah, I just have to change the viewport frame. So instead of viewport frame, it's going to be the new viewport frame that we made. I believe everything else is fine. We would just have to remove the parts from the other script. And yeah, let's say I do something like 0.1, right, for the parts. Now, in this case, this actually, well, now it seems like it works, right? I mean, this seems perfectly fine, right? However, again, small issues that, don't forget, these are drawings. This is user interface. There is no 3D logic here, right? This is a problem. So like, see, no matter how far my character goes, this drawing will always be on top of the character. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be the case. So for example, I could actually make it so that my character is on top. So if I just change the, I believe it's the Zindex. So if I could do 2, and see, now my character is on top, right? So now you're like, oh yeah, this looks perfectly fine. But then again, the problem here is that if I go behind the parts, my character is still visible, right? And you know, this, you might not see this as a big problem, but I do. I don't really like the fact that it works like this. Now, the one bonus of doing this though, with multiple frame rates, is that this is the only way we can have different camera modes for different items, right? So again, like I said, for example, like if I wanted my character to be perfectly in the middle, I could do that, right? And like, I don't have to do that for the parts. Like I could have my character be perfectly in the middle like this, right? Or actually, you know what? Let's actually give my character one of those frame rates, right? So something like this, yeah, 5 FPS, right? I could have something like this, right? Like this does look really nice. I do genuinely really like the look of this, right? But then again, the problem is that it overlays, and that's not good. And by the way, just in case you're wondering why we can't just do the same thing for the parts and call it a day, because if I do this for the parts, this happens. So let me just show you this. And again, like I said, you might like this effect, but there's no real consistency. Like if I just move, look, I move it up and down, right? It just shakes a little bit. Because again, like I said, it's a drawing. It's going to update itself every like 0.1 seconds or something. And again, you know, up to you, but this just looks very shaky. This doesn't look real, right? And it's a problem. And again, the effect that it makes is pretty cool, right? Like I don't have anything against this, but how do we make something that looks consistently good? Well, this was my solution, right? So let me just delete this. Actually, not delete. I'm going to copy this real quick. I'm going to delete this. My solution to this was to just use one viewport frame, because if we use one viewport frame, then the parts will overlap in the proper order. So you're not going to have the character being always in front. You're not going to have the parts being always in front. If the character is in front of the parts, you'll see the character. If the character is behind the parts, you'll see the parts, right? So this works out perfectly. But of course, we want to make sure that both the character and the parts have a different frame rate. And the way to do this would just be to make 2 different while loops. So here, let me show you, right? I'm going to remove the camera. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to add this here as well. And so what I'll do here is I'll just remove this part over here, and then I'm going to remove this over here. So we have one while loop for the character and then another while loop for our parts. However, once again, we have 2 problems. Number 1, with the while loop, because it's a forever loop, we're never going to get to the second while loop. So we're going to get to this one and we're going to stay looped here forever. And like I said, the way to fix this is by using this thing called task.spawn. Again, I'm not going to go too in depth into it. I know this is like the most boring part of the video, but you would do effectively something like this. And I don't have to do this for here as well, because this is the last line of code. And you know, I don't care if we don't go any forward. And you know, I don't care if we don't go any further here, because we literally don't have any other code. So I'm not going to give it a task.spawn. But the second problem here is that when we're clearing all children, and this basically means we're deleting every item inside of the viewport frame, we don't want to do that, right? So we only want to delete the items that we have created in this loop. Because again, for example, let's say if this loop is like running incredibly fast, but this loop isn't. So let me show you how this would look, right? Let's say my character is running at a perfect speed and this is running at 10 frames per second. Because it's clearing all children every single frame, it would just delete the parts as well, because the parts are also inside the viewport frame, right? So it would basically look something like this. Yeah, it's a very, weird little effect, and I don't want to look at it too much, but you see how just bad that looks, right? So what we need to do is find a way to only delete the items that we are creating here, right? To match with the frame rate of deletion. I'm using very fancy words here. I'm just basically saying, we have to delete the parts that we create in each while loop. And once again, I don't want to go too in depth about all of this, but the way that I would personally do this is I'll make 2 empty tables, right? Then in here, once we make a clone, I'm gonna add this to the table 1. So I'm gonna say, we can actually even name it like, I don't know, car table, a character table, and then parts table, something like this, right? And so then we can say table insert, we'll give it the character table, and then we're going to insert the new part like so. And we're going to do the same exact thing, but for the part table. And so then here, instead of deleting everything inside the viewport frame, we'll just delete everything inside of the table. So I'm going to say for iv in character table, do v destroy. Like so. So we're just going to destroy what's inside the table. And again, we're going to do the same thing here, right? But here we're going to do it for part table like so. And this is just a little thing, but I do think it would be cool to like have variables that we can change for frame rate. So I could say like maybe car FPS, and then I could say parts FPS. And let's say the character FPS will be like 300 or something. And then the part FPS, or actually no, you know what? Character will be 20, part will be 10, like so. And so then here I'm going to say 1 divided by character FPS. And then for parts, it's going to be 1 divided by parts FPS. And so I believe this is effectively all we have to do. So hopefully no weird issues that are going to arise. But yeah, look at that, right? So as you can see, my character is, again, moving a bit weirdly, right? But the parts are at a low frame rate and my character is at a different frame rate. Or once again, like I said, I could change that up. I can make the part FPS to be 15 and I can make my character FPS to be 5 or whatever, right? And then if I do it like this, we would have an effect like this where the character is moving at this frame rate, but the parts are moving slightly faster. Even though you can't properly, tell it, from like just a naked eye, they're definitely moving faster than my character. And again, like I said, look at the effect here, right? Like, we are now in front of the parts, and then when we're behind the parts, it renders accordingly instead of just putting one thing on top of just everything else. So this is a very cool effect, right? And again, like I said, what's good about this is that now that the parts are also part of the drawing, the character will not always be on top. That's the problem with using parts, right? Is that if you're making a drawing, like this optical illusion of the character, the drawing will always be on top of anything. But now that the parts are part of the drawing, we could just give them a regular frame rate so they can just move, regularly as always. And then we can just have an effect like this, right? Look at that. So like it looks normal. I mean, kind of like the lighting is still a bit weird, but look at that. My character's moving at 5 frames per second. Like, this is really cool. Or again, once I said, we could, completely change this up. So we could give parts 5 frames, and then we could give my character, for 300 frames, or I don't know, however much you want. And look at that. That's really cool. Although at this point, it kind of just looks like I'm like just moving them down, like, in like some script or something like that. But this is how you can basically let Roblox to run physics for you while also create a nice, frame rate experience, like this cool little illusion. Yeah, I am a bit surprised. I said this again in the previous video a lot, but I'm really surprised that more people didn't find some cool use for this, right? And look, the part's gonna destroy itself soon. There we go. Like, this is a really cool effect, honestly. And like I said, I could see this being used in some sort of Roblox animation. Like, I know there's like fighting games are really popular now where like, I've seen this one video, it's crazy. It's like a whole, like, it was like this like fighting game ability, and it was like this guy who like, you press a button and it locks you in like a cutscene, and there's like impact frames. Like, it's crazy. Like, the things that people are doing in those fighting games it's insane. And I really think you could benefit from something like this, right? Of course, a small problem is that they do look a little weird. Maybe that's just because I'm not too knowledgeable in how to use them properly. But the lighting is a little bit off. I'm sure that is fixable. But yeah, like even that aside, I'm sure there's just more things that you could do with these. Like, what I'm thinking? Maybe even something like I don't, this dumb little idea came to mind, but maybe like you could make like a glitch simulator. Like, you know those games where it's like, it's a simulator of gaining weight or something, or like building muscle, and it's like you start as like this little stick man and then you become like this big buff guy. What if it's a game where like you begin, running smoothly, and then as you, do something and then your character glitches out more, you slowly start to lose more and more frame rate. I don't know. I feel like that'd be a cool little idea for a simulator, or maybe the opposite. Maybe you start off glitched and then you become like less and less glitched as it goes on. So I mean, $1 billion game idea right there. So if you're gonna use it, obviously I'll I will be requesting my 50/50, of course. I hope you understand. But yeah, like I said, that is one aspect of, these frames, which I have found really cool, moving things at a different frame rate. And there was another thing which I also wanted to show you, which I do believe will be quite cool. And for this, I will just get rid of the parts, so we're not going to have our spawned parts anymore, which also means we don't need these tables, so I can just delete this, I can just remove this, and remove this, and this. And the idea here is very simple, but it's about the further you get away from something, the frame rate changes based on that. So imagine like you're really close to something, and then the frame rate becomes like really choppy, but then your camera gets away from something, and then the frame rate becomes nice and smooth, and I don't know, just a cool little illusion like that. So the way we could do this is, I'm gonna bring the variable for the character FPS back. So let's say character FPS. By default, I guess let's say 10 or something. So I'll say 1 divided by character FPS. And then what I'll do is I'm gonna make a function that's going to run every single frame. So I'll say render step connect function, like so. And over here, this is where we're gonna basically be changing the character FPS based on how far the camera is away from the player. So the way that I'll do this is I'm gonna say local distance, and it's gonna be in brackets the position of the player. So I'll say the player's main part, which is gonna be character.humanoid root parts.position. Then we're going to subtract this by our camera's position. So I'm going to say cam.cframe.position. Then we're going to say magnitude, like so. And what this is going to do is this is going to give us a number of how far the camera is away from the player. So I can even say like print distance. I can do something like this. And if I play the game, it should start printing it out. Yeah, so see, there we go. If I move it further away, look at that. The max is 189. And then if I move it very close, I guess the camera actually moves what the hell? Look at that. Oh right, yeah, I forgot to delete them. That's actually pretty cool. That's a nice little yeah, there we go. Another little cool effect that you can do. I don't know what thumbnail I'm gonna end up using, but I guess I'll use this for the thumbnail. This looks pretty cool. But yeah, again, my bad. I forgot to viewport clear all children. That is a pretty cool effect though. But yeah, I guess actually instead of humanoid root part, I will use the head. So in this way, it should be fine. So yeah, I can still see my character because it's like a drawing and everything, right? But yeah, see here it's 0, and then as I move farther away, it's 128. Okay, that makes sense, right? So it's from 0 to 128. And so then what I'm thinking is, what if we just set the character FPS, so I'll say character FPS, to be equal to whatever the distance is plus, I don't know, 5, right? So let's say if the distance is 0, the frames per second would be 5. If the distance is 10, it would be 15. Or if we could even do like distance plus, I don't know, 2 or something, like make it very, very, or even 1, just make it very low frame rate, right? And again, like I said, the effect that this is gonna have is that the further a camera is, the more frames the player will have. And the quicker this will update as well, so it might update a bit slower when it's at a low frame rate, but let's see this, right? Okay, so it's at a pretty low frame rate. If I zoom in, look at that. Look at that. See, the moment I zoom in, look at that, I can, wait, hold on. I can see myself, right? Let's see. Bum. Okay. Done. Look at that. I can see. It's like I'm seeing after image of myself. Look at that. It's like that one JoJo scene where King Crimson and Sticky Fingers fight. I'm sure you get the reference, right? But look at that. And if I zoom my camera out, he's all good. Look at that. The part one was more visual, but I like this a lot. I don't know why. Look at that. You zoom out the camera, he's totally fine, but then you get closer, now he's at a low frame rate. That is cool. I don't even know exactly what to use this for. Like I really can't like think of maybe some like platformer game or something like that. That is cool. And everything's fine. Damn, like wow. We could even do a complete opposite of this. So I could say, instead of +1, we could just take 129. So it was 128, right? So 129 minus distance. So if distance is 0, then we'd get the full frame rate. But then if distance is, again, the maximum was like 128, I believe, the distance. So it would be 129 minus 128, which would be 1, which of course would then make it a very low frame rate when we're like really far away from the character. So this way, let's see. See, look at that. I'm very close to the character, right? Very smooth. Look at that. Literally perfect. And then I move away a little bit, and damn, that was instant. The hell? Look at that. It's like I slowly move my camera up, right? And look at that. That was quick. What the hell? Damn. Yeah, I definitely do prefer the other one, where, the closer your camera is, the more laggy he is. I don't know, I really like this effect. You zoom out instantly and he's just like that. I don't know. Like, That's cool to me, bro. I don't know why. Actually, wait, I can do emotes. Dance, I don't know, 3. Look at that. I really like this effect. Look at that. It's like one of those, you know what I can imagine this? I can imagine this being some like Instagram video of like some music playing and it's like some guy dancing to it. I always see this one video, it's like this low frame rate, like, model of like some girl like doing some dance. Nothing weird, obviously, but like, you know, like I don't know, just I can imagine putting some music over it and just having this play out. I don't know. Yeah, so if anyone makes Instagram videos and you're watching this, this I predict this will be the new meme of 2025. I know we just started 2025, but like, you know, in the oncoming months, like if you, like, I'm telling you, this is a gold mine. Like, you make a video of this guy dancing with some cool music playing, you're gonna get billions of views, right? Billions with a B. You're gonna surpass Mr. Beast. It's gonna be crazy. And then yeah, I zoom out. Look at that. It's like some edit where like you zoom in, he just becomes lower and lower frame rate. That's very cool. This is a really cool effect. I really like this. So yeah, again, just you know, some little things that I want to show you. I think that messing around with frame rate is very underrated. I'm surprised more games don't do this. Again, like with Roblox, it's understandable because Roblox doesn't really give you a built-in way to do this. You have to, like, you know, think outside the box. Because again, this character isn't real. If I switch to, you know, another camera, we don't even see the character, right? It's only if I shift back to my own camera, that's when I can actually see this, because this is basically an optical illusion. It doesn't actually exist, even though my character technically does. It's hard to explain. You could watch the first video to understand more. But I don't even see this in basic games. Like, you know, you'd think Udemy or Unreal Engine, like Unreal Engine is hyped up immensely. Like, it's crazy, and I'd be shocked if it didn't have some sort of built-in rendering system that allowed you to change frame rates of objects. Like, Roblox doesn't have this because it's a Lego game, basically. I understand that, but like, I don't know. I like this effect a lot, and I think that this has a lot of potential. So of course, you know, do comment, do share this video around. I think, again, the more people to see it, the better. Yeah, comment what you think of this. Comment if there's anything else that you think I missed when it comes to making cool little effects. Let me see. Dance too. That's cool. Definitely subscribe if you want to see more of stuff like this, because I definitely am going to be posting a lot more like very interesting and creative content very soon. So like, I got a bunch of videos in the works. I have a bunch of ideas on my mind. Like, I really do want to take this channel to the next level. Recent videos have not been doing too well, you know, but I just been experimenting. I've been not taking this too seriously, but I really do have a bunch of ideas which I do want to share with people. So if you subscribe, obviously that helps me, but also helps, you know, future videos come out faster, come out with better quality, and, you know, just helps more people see these videos. So yeah, at this point, if you're like just a regular person, just a basic player, you can, you know, stop watching the video. I want to now talk to people who are either developers or want to develop. Like, maybe you saw this video and you're like, you know what, damn, like this actually is pretty interesting. I want to learn more. You probably see where this is going. Yes, I'm gonna sell you a product, of course, but I will just say, if you like my teaching style, if you think that I'm amazing, if you think that this is a work of art, again, like I said, this is a next meme of 2025. I do have a $30, depends on your, you know, location, obviously, but $30 7-hour course, right? So that's look at that. Wait, I got distracted by it. It's like, it looks blurry. Look at that. Damn, that is weird. I guess that's another little effect that I missed. Yeah, like, yeah, look at that. That is weird. And then, yeah, here it looks fine. Anyways, yeah, but about the course, you know, I teach the everything, just, you know, from Roblox Studio, beginner to expert. That's the name of the course. I also teach how to think creatively, how to think properly, how to look anything up. Because obviously my course can't teach you everything there ever is to exist about game development, but I teach you how to always be self-sustaining, how to be able to look for information. Of course, on top of every important bit of information that you would need in terms of coding and, you know, studio and all of that. And again, I teach you my mindset when it comes to making games, making ideas, which I have gotten a lot of praise for on this channel, and I do think that's a big strength of mine. And if you just feel like your games just don't have that same effect, that same, you know, pizzazz, you could say, I do think the course will help you. So you can go check it out for free, no credit card, no sign up, in the link in the description and the pinned comment. I got my Instagram there as well, so you can go follow me for clout, of course. I had a Korean girl follow me the other day, which was amazing. Highlight of my day. So if we could get more of that, I would appreciate that as well. But of course, you know, I do hope you enjoyed. Like I said, you know, give this video some love, or whatever the average YouTuber says. I don't want to be corny, but, you know, they keep saying it, so I guess it works to some degree. Like, obviously, if everyone says please subscribe, I guess it helps in a way. I don't know. But yeah, as always, we are back to basics. Thank you for watching.